Well, good evening. How are you tonight? How are you tonight? All right, so it is 7:02, and as committed, because I don't make promises, because promises are often broken, so I make commitments, and I'm here as committed to answer any questions that you may have. And yeah, I'm doing my nails as we speak. Hey, I got to multitask, you know? Even though we're stuck in the house, I still have plenty to do. I don't have, I have no lack. I no instances of boredom whatsoever. Maybe a choice to try to lay down, and I don't know if you're like me, but I think I mentioned to you all earlier that I stayed up until about 3 o'clock getting some marketing work done for my for-profit. And in doing so, of course, I disturbed my natural sleep pattern. And for me, I cannot really nap during the daytime. So as much as I have been trying to lay low, quote unquote, and even try to take a nap, negative. And even though I haven't been maybe at Queen Get Her Done level of productivity today, there's still been a lot to do. And I would reckon that some of you would be like, you have done a lot today. That's a lot. But anyway, so I'm coming to you, and I actually made myself some reminders so that we could discuss some of the other key points that I wanted to clarify. Because what we're doing right now is we are correcting disinformation, and we are confronting obfuscation. Now, if you have been following me, and if you're one of my supporters and one of those who has voted for me in the past, then you've heard me use the term obfuscation often, because it is an issue with our current government officials. Not all, but too many, let's say. Well, just way too many. And obfuscation is basically the intentional beguiling or the intentional confusing of a well-known truth or decided truth or an otherwise accepted truth. And the intention, of course, is to make you not believe that you know what you believe to be true. Okay, and so that's what we're doing. So we've already kind of addressed the kind of obviousness of what? Wearing something over your face. That's a level of obfuscation, because you know that to generally be true and a widely accepted truth at that. And yet some of you are still thinking, oh, well, they're saying don't wear it, and they're not really giving us permission to get it. You don't need permission from the government at any time. There is no statutory law. You're not violating any law at this point. He is not, and I'm referring to Trump. There is no current order, no current statutory law. And even where there is, I'm going to suggest that, and I know that I'm the one in law school. I know. But I guarantee you, this is one of the ones that you need to stand up for yourself on, because I believe that would be a huge violation of your rights, especially considering the fact that they are a fiduciary for us and should be giving us accurate information. But what I'm saying is that there's no law right now that says you must do everything Trump says. No. And there's no law specifically that says if the Trump says you can't wear a mask, or if Dr. Fauci says you can't wear a mask or you shouldn't wear a mask, that doesn't become some statutory law. No, when they say it on CNN, what is this, WBTV, Fox, whatever, it's not a law, and it is not an enforcement, and you're not enjoined. It's not shall. And all these things are legal terms. So no, you're basically not bound to not protect yourself. It sounds foolish, and I'm making lightheart of it and showing the humor, because it really does have a very foolish undertone, even an overtone, okay? So definitely protect yourself. Okay, so there's another issue that I wanted to clarify, and it really, really bothered me that she said it in such a mocking way. Now, it's often, now it can be said in a way where it can be received respectfully and objectively. So if she had said And the statement that she made was that they were discussing to wear or not to wear a face mask, right? And her response was, well, you know, scientists like to debate. And she was referring to the fact that evidently, even though they didn't say it, there was an implication, and anybody, you don't need to agree to understand that she was definitely coming for the scientific community, okay? And she was basically saying that there is no consensus amongst scientists that you should wear a mask. Now, I'm going to lean on the side of that's bullshit. Right, I can't even do it right. You know I'm corny. I try. I'm saying. But anyway, so the reason why I'm going to believe that that is probably absolute poop, oh, excuse me, y'all, is because PPE and a lab and science, that's not normally something that we would disagree about. And it would just be one of those, like, you know, err on the side of caution type of things. It's not that big of a deal, you know, or just cover your mouth. It's just not that big of a deal where we would actually debate. And so that's why it was such an insulting statement to make, because it was so low. And it was suggesting that we would argue over just everything, just petty, you know, and have arguments over everything. And that's not accurate. When it comes to PPE and a lab and sanitation and proper procedures, because it is core to the validity of our research, okay? So if we have contaminated or cross-contamination of our specimen, right, or our petri dish or whatever we're working with, that's going to make our test, what? Our iterations, our results will be off, right? Okay? If you're growing, if you're intending to try and grow bacteria, and in your experiment, if you don't do the blue streak right, you know, with the fire, get rid of as much as you possibly can, then it's very possible, because, you know, everything that is in the air is a function of that which is on the ground, quote unquote. So what I'm getting at is that what is atmospheric or airborne, bacteria can be airborne, okay? And in that regard, it can definitely cross-contaminate your petri dishes if you're growing, you know, bacteria. Like we have the kind of basal experiments that we do in the lab. So what I'm getting at is that that's an area that a scientist would normally always confer. If anything, maybe at best we would argue about having more PPE or having greater strength PPE to use, especially if you're using chemicals in a lab and you have the exposure for your eyes and your skin. We would definitely err on the side of caution. It would not be something that we would say, oh, we can loosen the reins on this. You know, you're just working with acid. It's no big deal. If it gets on your skin, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. So no, that's it. It was ridiculous. It was baseless. It was petty. It was insulting. It was unprofessional. It was unethical. It was unladylike, in fact, as well. It was just all things bad. All things bad, okay? Then, now, as I was mentioning, respectfully and objectively, she could have used the term debate in a more applicable and relevantly so manner. Because even though we don't consider it debate, we consider it contributing to our scientific discoveries collectively, because as I mentioned to you earlier, the goal in science is to further our studies. So we have exploratory studies, we have scaffolding studies that build upon previous studies so that we can continue to learn more. Science is a continually evolving field of study. Reason being is because science is everything around you. And it is a very, very complex dynamism. We're talking about the atmosphere. And generally, we don't see the atmosphere, right? We don't see the air in front of us. Yes, maybe if it is, if there's great particulate matter in the air, then we can kind of see the particulate matter, but you don't see the oxygen, you know what I mean? You don't see that atmospheric chemical compounds per se that's there. We don't see that kind of gray matter. You don't see necessarily rays. We see light, but we don't see it the same way we see a solid cell phone or a solid object, okay? And what I'm getting at is, so there are interactions that are going on all the time, biochemical, microbiological, all the time. And in these ecosystems, there are ecosystems within an ecosystem. So each, let's say a pond in and of itself is an ecosystem. Then you have maybe a forest in and of itself is an ecosystem. And then the earth as a whole is an ecosystem. And some of you have heard about it being open and closed. Open being that, it will allow, for lack of a better way of explaining it, it will allow things to come in and out, right? Whereas if it's a closed system, maybe there can only be things that, the biochemical processes happen inside, but nothing can come out, quote unquote. The point that I'm making is that there's so much going on, and over time, and there's the evolution, or what we refer to as mutation, of not only viruses, bacteria, even our own bodies, animals, plants, and the like, and multicellular organisms, microscopic, and otherwise, okay? So these things are evolving over time, right? Because evolution is a function of time. And with that being said, we have to continue to study because things are ever changing as well. So it's not so much as that we are debating to the just for the sake of debating, and we just like to sit around and see how smart we are and who can come up with a better theory. No. Now, yes, we get excited when we can contribute a theory that really furthers the understanding of any particular specialization in science, in the applied sciences. Yeah, we get excited about that. Just like anyone else would if they made advancements in their particular field of study or profession. But we're not sitting around just saying, oh, I just want to be smart. We're just going to sit around and be smart in a circle, and we're just going around and we're just going to have witty banter. Ha ha ha. And that really is not. That is a very antiquated, is a very ignorant way of thinking. It is it's exceedingly arrogant, and it's especially inappropriate. That's why I said it's not ladylike. It's especially inappropriate to come from a woman who knows firsthand, even though she is a Caucasian woman, she knows firsthand that the scientific community, even the medical doctor and medical professionals community, even pharmaceuticals, all of that is a male and Caucasian male-dominated field. So for her to speak in such a crass and sarcastic and insulting and denigrating way about an entire community of scientists, and that we somehow just want to debate over whether or not PPE is important for individuals during a pandemic, during an airborne viral infection pandemic. It's ridiculous. It is, in fact, even stupid. Just completely flat out, it's stupid, okay? So that's why if you saw any of my posts, you saw that I was very, very, very taken aback by that statement that she made. It was completely inappropriate. And I hope that she takes the time maybe she won't watch my videos because she'll consider me maybe, you know, one of the little guys, you know, since I'm not on CNN. Who knows? I could care less. But hopefully someone will speak to her. Hopefully her colleagues, in fact, will say, you know what? I think maybe that was probably not the best way to go. And especially using that as a dig somehow during this time frame when people really just need accurate information and they're really stressing out as to who they should listen to. Yeah, there, like I said earlier today, there are a group of us that are like, okay, we consider ourselves woke, right? And that's another topic because there's a difference between woke and enlightened. But anyway, so there's a group of woke, there's a group of enlightened, and there's a group of, you know, sufficiently informed, we'll call it, okay? And those are all three different aspects. And again, I'll go into detail maybe on a different day about that subject matter. That's a very interesting school of thought. But anyway, so these individuals generally feel like they got it. I got it. I don't need nobody to help me. I know that to put on a damn mask. Okay, so they're over there. Okay, however, there are still individuals, and they may be individuals like myself who have a child with a quote-unquote disability. Now, is my son physically unfortunate and an invalid? No. But we all know that, and we've become more and more understanding and empathetic to the reality that a disability doesn't necessarily present visibly as we expect it to. And that's the case with my son. So there are, and if I weren't a scientist, I would have major concerns, and I still do. My son is playing Fortnite right now, but I guarantee you, he can tell you, like, with us just running our essential errands yesterday, I didn't want him to go out in nothing. I wanted him to stay in the car with my mom. That's how we're rolling. I'm going to getting the things. I'm completely covered. I can't have you go out. Anybody touch you, I'm gonna have to knock them out, put them down. I'm going to jail. It's just not gonna be productive. It's not gonna be productive. So I know that there has to be parents out there. Maybe you don't have children, or maybe you're just concerned about your loved ones. Maybe you're caring for someone who is maybe they're of their golden years, but they still have, youthfulness. It's not, it's not time to go, they're in their 60s or 70s, and, and nobody wants any of your family members, whether they're dealing with a disability or not, you want them to have quality of life. So you can imagine all the people out there right now who are like, okay, well, I really need answers. So why are you on TV acting a nut? Why are you trying to take digs at the scientific community, and we're trying to literally hear from you, and you're supposed to be a medical professional conducting yourself with high ethical rigor and professional rigor, and instead of focusing on us, the people who are asking you these questions and really need to understand what we need to do for ourselves and our loved ones, you'd rather play tit for tat and say petty stuff and come for the scientific community like this is a game. It's not a game. So it was just so inappropriate on so many different levels, okay? All right. Oh, Lord have mercy. All right. So, and let me give me 1 second. Woo. I don't see where anyone has come on the line. And part of my marketing, do not judge me. Part of my marketing was to get some photographs using the backdrop of the area I live in. So I waited until my son was asleep, went out. Of course, it was a little chilly last night. And so I'm kind of feeling the aftermath of that. But I'm perfectly fine. I'm taking good care of myself. I'm not doing, we're not trying to play Russian roulette with my life or my son's life. Okay, so let me go and make sure I have, so we've covered debate. Let me go back to the post. And let me see if I see anybody online, because I remember earlier today I saw that you could see me live. Yep, there we go. But it doesn't look like anyone has chimed in tonight. And I understand. I understand completely. You're probably watching movies at this point, trying to have maybe a decent Friday, make it into, you know, like a weekend, you know what I mean? Or maybe you're asleep, taking a nap. Maybe you're just completely over it. Maybe you're making a TikTok as we speak, and you all are on your, you know, rehearsal grind, because you got to rehearse that stuff, man. I'm telling you, you got to put in effort for TikTok. And I love the fact that it actually entails that type of rigor. And so maybe you're busy. Maybe you're cooking right now. You know, we eat late. I'm going to be honest with you. We're kind of like the 8:30, the 8:30, 9 o'clock dinner eaters. I know it's terrible. It's terrible, but this is how we rock out. You know, we can, you know, we work it out. I try not to be, just too serious. I think everything else in my life, all of my academia, I mean, for goodness sake, y'all, I'm a scientist, an economist, a politician, and a second-year rising law student. I think it's okay for us to, like, bend the rules a little bit at home, okay? So, but anyway, and my son he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. But anywho, so I know you see me, so now I'm still going to answer a few things at 7:23. If you do see that I am live, please join in. If you have any questions and you have those questions offline, maybe you'll look at this video after you finish making your TikTok, or after you finish making dinner, or after you all have your movie night with your family or whatever. And you are welcome to send those questions to me, and I may not respond in real time, even though, and it's so funny because I say that, but everyone tells me, and I see it online as well, which is just hilarious. And it's sweet. It's sweet in one way, but it's kind of funny when you think about it. On all of my social media, it says that I respond very quick. Very highly responsive, or something to that effect. And people tell me all the time, you know, like they get shocked because they're like, they call other politicians or they call other public figures and they don't answer their phone, and they're like, wait, or they're thinking that they need to ask for, or, you know, the person with whom they wish to speak, because they're presuming that it must be an assistant's phone. No, I've given you my actual cell phone number. And the email address I respond to in real time. Every once in a blue moon, I may not receive something, and it's maybe a technology hiccup, technical difficulties or whatever, and I will get back to you. But the point I'm making is that I will say that I won't, you know, I may not get to you in real time, and then ironically enough, I will, because my devices are kind of they're my assistant team. You know what I mean? I love to say that, you know, my Apple products, well, just all of them, because we've got the Windows as well, they definitely help me to be Queen Get Her Done. And definitely without the efficiency of my devices, it would be a bit of a hurdle. I would still be able to get it done, but it would be a bit of a hurdle, definitely. So, okay, now, because I want to cover the other things, I think I can, I don't know, I'm not sure if I can pull it up. All right, so, I said that we would cover physical distancing, which we did. I said that we would cover personal protective equipment, which we did, the N95 mask, and, you know, the alternative PPE, and what's the big deal, basically, with this N95 mask. I also want to throw in a little common sense, which I've actually put in my my tweets and my post on yesterday and today. If there is no benefit, no protection provided by an N95 mask, and you've heard them kind of use this logic, oh, it's not going to help you. It's not going to help you at all. To the public, they're saying it's not going to help you. But we need it. We need it desperately. We need to reserve our, our stock for whom? For the medical professionals. Well, that should tell you something, because you should hear the contradiction in the statement. If N95 masks are not sufficient to protect a person from the COVID-19 virus, then why the urgency to have the medical professionals have it? Right. Okay. So we've cleared up. That's clear knowing obfuscation, because we know there is a great likelihood that they are fully and sufficiently informed that, of course, the N95 mask, it is an effective measure for protecting yourself from viral infections. Okay. And yes, we do want the medical professionals to have that PPE, because I'm not sure if I actually kind of touched upon this earlier, but I wanted to make sure to clarify that part as well. And you heard me mention it, but I did not go into detail because, again, it was a tweet and you have so many characters. So what I was getting at when I said, without further clarification, recommending that the general public not wear masks is knowingly reckless. So the additional clarification is going into detail about the fact that, yes, okay, yes, N95 masks are effective. Of course they are. Otherwise, there's no point in giving them to the medical professionals. And the medical professionals should be suing you because they've been exposed to a liability that is protected under OSHA. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm getting at is without that further clarification, without saying, okay, well, here are some other alternative measures. And even that would not be, well, I would argue that they should and can devise a list amongst OSHA experts and ask them, no, we're not doing that. Oh, he may come in. No, Asa, no, I am live. No, sir. Let's go. Don't do it. Oh my goodness. Yeah. But they can definitely get OSHA experts. And if they don't want the scientists at the table, the OSHA experts they're very much so sufficient, very much so qualified to provide a list of alternative face protective gear. Okay. Some of these things are, you've seen me in the face mask, the paint mask that you've seen at Sherwin-Williams. It's a mesh one. You pull it over your head, kind of like one of those, almost looks like one of the things that you would wear, what is it? Like a ski mask, if you will. And you can also treat the cloth. It can be glazed cotton or glazed fabric, which helps for preventing exposure to particulate matter or dust or, paint. Okay. And there are other options as well. Even something as simple as, because again, they've told you that the coronavirus, you've heard them say this, COVID-19 or SARS-19, right? You've heard them say that this particular, and they said that in a very mocking and very, I thought it was very offensive the way that he said it. Like what's the big deal? It's not, if you're healthy, you can't die from it. And if you stay at home, you'll be just fine. And if you catch it, it's not that big of a deal. And you're like, okay, then why are we doing all this? Why are we doing all this? Okay. And again, it's not so much as that the coronavirus or COVID-19 is such a big bad virus. And I think we should all approach it that way, just so that we stay in the psychology mindset of being prepared and not taking for granted our health, not taking for granted our viability and ability to recover from what we generally know to be just regular old flu symptoms or cold symptoms or whatever. It is just important that you have this alternative PPE, these options, to be quite frank. And if we know that it's not a big bad virus, then we know that alternative PPE should be sufficient for protecting ourselves, because what we're protecting ourselves from is what we talked about earlier today, is from the droplets, the saliva, and that transmission, right? That that method of contracting the viral infection. So you can use things like, what was it the guys used to dance in, or they're dancing in now, and the women too. They're really cool. They're these cool masks, and they have like these kind of gothic and cutesy designs on the front of the mask, and it only covers the half of your face, if you will, the lower half of your face, and that's the part that we're trying to protect. And they look rather durable. They look thick. They don't look like a thin bandana or, a thin fabric. They look pretty, pretty durable. I would say even wear those when you're out and about. And that's fashionable, people. And I am all about fashion and intelligence. That is a marriage made in heaven, friends. So, yeah. This is why I was saying, hey, absent this clarification, and you don't even have to go into further detail like this. They could have very easily just posted it up like, here, find this here. And you don't see that on enough of the websites, especially for our fiduciary agencies like the CDC, National Institute of Health, the World Health Organization. You're not seeing enough of this information, this very basal and very, very simple information posted and made readily available to the general public. Instead, it's like in my opinion, they're just wanting more views on CNN and on Fox News, because this is late breaking news. And of course, they've got our undivided attention because we want to know what's going on. This is serious. We're talking about, innumerable deaths and innumerable confirmed cases of this. And how do we manage this? And what do we need to do next? And what should we expect next? And we're losing jobs, and are we going to get, our unemployment? Are we going to get the stimulus check? What is the Senate and House doing right now? Has Trump signed this? So of course you're going to have our undivided attention almost based on the circumstances. And so with that said, they are even more so, in my opinion, held to that fiduciary standard to provide some accurate information and not just string us along just for ratings. Come on, friends. No, this is not the time to do that. You can get your economics on and all of your kind of not so great below par ethical standards in there on another time. Right now, this is serious. People need true, accurate information, okay? And they need it in real time. They don't need to hear it piece by piece, because that's what they've been doing. They bring on one expert, and then they ask that expert, what do you think about masks? And they've even asked they've asked random-ass people who have nothing to do with they don't have any expertise in anything even related to human health and safety. And they've asked them, okay, what do you think? Should we wear a mask or not? People don't need to hear that from random-ass people. They need to hear it from a fiduciary and feel comfortable and know and secure that, hey, I can at least do this. I know that I need to keep my tail at home. I'm going to generally keep my tail at home. But what if I have to go out and restock on groceries? What if I have to go out and I have to go to the pharmacy, like in my case? What do I have to go out? What if I have to go out? I need to know what I need to do in those instances. And this is why this is so important. Because you don't want to be that person who has been following the rules, staying at home, and then all you do is go out to get a refill on your pharmaceuticals. and you don't wear a mask, someone sneezes in your direction, or someone sneezes and you don't even see who sneezed, you just walk through where they sneeze, and you are exposed to the viral infection. You then have to be tested because you're going through the symptoms and discover that you now that you now are positive for COVID-19. That would be very, very unsettling. That would be one of the worst case scenarios, to know that you're like, I'm following all the rules. They're telling me to do this, and I'm following everything they tell me to do. And based on what they told you to do, you still yet contract the disease, the viral infection. Come on, and that's not good. We can do better, especially those in these fiduciary positions. And I think that I think there's a fiduciary element with our journalists. Now, they will argue, left and right about it, but come on, people, especially with what we're experiencing. Okay, so 7:38, 20 more minutes here. I don't see any questions. Let me make sure. Let me go up. Let's see. It's still showing that I'm here. It's not showing anyone has joined. Yeah, it's showing at 36 minutes. And I will be going live on tomorrow at 11 a.m. And I will be going live on, let me make sure, on Twitter. And then I will go live in the evening at 7 p.m. on Twitter. And my Twitter handle is Tigress Run, the same thing. Now, I don't know if you all were expecting me, because I thought about this as well. So I'll cover this and then I'll head on out. Okay, so I presumed, and I mean, this was just a lucky guess, that they were going to start talking about whether or not, what's going to happen with the conventions, the political conventions, and voting, and are we canceling the election? All these things, these concerns that have kind of been in the air, if you will. And I'm just certain that, they are just plotting and planning, and even though, we've got this stay-at-home order in effect, politics will be politics. And so I was thinking, and I presumed, and I even said it, so it's stamped in time. There is a record. And I said, they're probably going live somewhere right now saying that the Republican, Party convention is still going on. And so evidently that was damn near accurate. I did not look into it completely to see where she went live or whatever, but the mayor evidently went live somewhere and broadcast that they still plan on, facilitating the Republican convention. I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked at all. I hope that you all, because Republicans, you're people too, and I hope that you will be wise enough to, if the pandemic is still a major issue, I hope that you will be wise enough to concede the cancellation of that. Now, of course, it should be ordered, cancellation, because of course it was going to be well over 10 people gathering together in close proximity, and it's just completely unrealistic that they would maintain any type of physical distance at that convention. So it should be very interesting in the coming weeks and months, the things that will be impacted by our current pandemic. Okay, so it's 7:41, and I have covered physical distancing, social distancing, and I've explained to you the difference. because it actually is physical distancing. And I'm glad that there was an individual, like I said earlier today, she did correct them, and I am very, very, very grateful that she did assert herself and correct that. We're not social distancing, we are physical distancing, okay? I think that social distancing is something that just has come, it's a topic that really is just for the social media aspect of it all. But for the management of populations during the pandemic, the correct term would be physical distancing, when they want you to maintain a distance of at least 6 feet from other individuals, okay? All right, so we talked about OSHA, we talked about hazmat, I've given you my qualifications. We talked about viral contagions, we talked about what they are. We went into briefly the express fact that they are or were not for a great time in scientific research deemed not to be alive. But additional studies and recent studies are suggesting that they do have a history that dates back to primordial beginnings of life. And so they're basically, conducting further research to determine genes and similarities so that they can, and I'm talking about that of viruses and that of, bacteria. And some of you know this, prokaryote and eukaryote and all these things, right? So you got multicellular organisms and single cellular organisms, bacteria, And basically they're trying to see the common traits, the common gene traits of these two dynamics, right? And then ascertain if they originated completely separately or together. Was it symbiotic, because of course we know that the virus itself, and I've heard some of my colleagues kind of liken it to just a message in a ball, if you will. And in this ball, you have the protein, and anyone who knows just a wee bit about biochemistry and biochemical processes and metabolic processes or whatever, protein is highly important to that process, right, as a catalyst. And so basically in this ball, you have this RNA, and it's sending information to tell it what to do. And usually the tell it what to do is then receives a response in kind from your body, and that response is normally in the form of inflammatory responses. So that's when you get your fevers, you get your they say it's like fibromyalgia, where you have body aches and your dry cough and things of that nature. So what I'm getting at is there is still, and of course we know that the young lady, I guess, would refer to it as a debate. It's not a debate, and I will even further clarify that before we finish today's live. It's not a debate. Again, science is an ever-growing study. Point blank, period. Because everything in science is ever-growing and changing, okay? And we all know that there's a mutation of viruses, right? That's why you get, a different flu vaccine, right? Okay. So we kind of generally, even though you may not be a scientist or you may not have the specific technical knowledge of it, you do have a general working knowledge of what I am speaking about. So amongst scientists generally, and it's, all of the applied sciences, so you've got the you know, your biology, your chemistry, and, you know, your combinations where you have your biochemistry and your microbiology. And let me clarify that as well, because I've clarified it once before with a supporter, because they were like, well, how do you know about this science? I thought you were this type of scientist. Oftentimes you will hear me in the general public, if I'm having a quick interaction with someone, I often cannot go into detail as to the type of science that is my specialization, because most of us, generally in science, when you're studying applied sciences, a scientist must learn all sciences, must have a proficiency or at least a working knowledge in all of the applied sciences, because they are relevant to the other, okay? And they're interrelated. And they are necessary to understand your specialization. And oftentimes there's a correlation, a high correlation. So in my particular science, it's extremely inseparable, because we have wetland science, right? We have wetland, bio, and phyto remediation. So when you hear bio, you know life. When you hear phyto, you know plants. And so we're talking about a wetland, which has what? Soil, water, right? And then the life. So the life being either the organism, it can be the multicellular, it can be the single cellular, or it can be what? The plant life. All right, so those are all, that's multiple sciences there. There's water science, hydrology, horticulture, plant physiology, because sometimes horticulture may not go as in depth into plant physiology as one would normally presume. Then you have what? Soil science, and oh my gosh, that's a whole world. That's a lot of stuff, people. Just trust me on that's a lot. Okay. In fact, we have a very specific certification and vetting program for all scientists who want to, you know, work in that field and specialize in soil science. You have to go through a very extensive process to be vetted and receive that certification, even beyond a doctoral degree or a master's degree. Okay. And so what I'm getting at is that when a scientist pursues their individual interest in science and it becomes their specialization because they have experience in it, there is always inherent to that science other sciences. So, because people have said to me before, well, how is it that you teach physics, but you are this type of scientist? Well, physics is huge in my type of science, because if you know anything about wetland management, even though I am a huge fanatic and I'm a huge proponent for the protection and the remediation of and the mitigated loss of naturally occurring wetlands, the truth of the matter is that most of the wetlands that are now surviving in America are constructed wetlands, and they are constructed to replace the wetlands that they have, quote unquote, excavated and drained for usually a permitted commercial development. I'm not going to go into that because you already know how I feel about it. You can see it on my face. But the truth of the matter is that construction, engineering, physics is huge in my particular area, even though that's not something that you normally would consider when you hear wetlands. You wouldn't normally say, oh, physics and wetlands, absolutely. But yeah, they're absolutely inseparable, and actually just fun note of information. I actually started off my degree program in my bachelor's program in engineering, agricultural engineering, for that very same reason. So again, I think I mentioned earlier, if you were to see my transcript, you'd be like, oh my God, are you serious? This fool took all this stuff? Yeah, it's like that. That's what a scientist transcript looks like. And as they go from bachelor's to master's to doctoral, just know that we don't sit around. I know that there's a myth from our president that science is not real, and that I guess we sit around in a room and we just say things that we think are witty and smart, and we throw out theory. I don't know. This guy, This guy, y'all, I don't know what to say about him. But anyway, just trust me, there's some true academic rigor that goes along with the programs in science and the applied science and technology field. Okay, so let me go back here. So all of that was to say that, okay, so they're with all of these applied sciences and knowing that science, because science is effectively the atmosphere, the earth or the land, okay, and the different types of soil and their properties, and the groundwater, right, and the air space or the pocketed spaces there, the plate tectonics, the crust of the, we're talking about the earth, okay, the atmosphere, right, the weather, climate, right? And we could just go on and on and on, right? The animal life, the small animal life, because they're still like little bitty animals, the multicellular organisms, and then the bacteria. All these things are doing stuff all the time, and they're ever changing, ever growing. So right now, the consensus is that we believe that it has almost like I won't say that because that's not accurate. I was going to say biomimicry. That's not the right term. That's a different, I don't want to confuse the matter. Biomimicry is a deliberate applied science field where you are attempting to mimic biological processes through a non-biological or uncommon process. So I don't want to say that. What I'm getting at is that they are discovering that the virus itself and its gene traits are very, very similar to that of organisms which we associate with life. And you have to understand the definition of life for a scientist. We know that the viruses don't generally reproduce themselves without what? A host, right? And we know that they have the protein, but we also know that they don't necessarily make protein. But they're, all these things are just under investigation, scientific investigation. And they just see that it just has more of a staple type of presence in our lives than we initially have discovered in previous studies. So when someone tells you that a virus is definitely not alive, well, that may be a scientist who is, they're on their beginning road. Maybe they're not yet at the doctoral level. Maybe they're not sufficiently informed about the current studies. It doesn't mean that they're a bad scientist. It just means that, that they have some growth to do in their particular, field of study. So are they alive? Right now, consensus is the viruses do mimic life. And so that is under investigation, like I said before. And they're investigating that by finding common gene traits. And you can even Google what I'm saying. And when I say Google it, don't just Google it and find just the first article that comes up. Go through Google Scholar or look in scholarly journals. And then you can research the current studies on topic, okay? So I believe that I have covered everything and clarified all of the obfuscation and the knowing disinformation that has been publicized by CNN here over these last 2 weeks, and it's been escalatedly so, and very disappointedly so. I prefer watching CNN. That's my truth. I prefer watching Cuomo. I prefer watching Lemon. But I've been very disappointed with their behavior over the last couple of days. And it's unnecessary. And I feel very strongly if you have to lie to protect your life, or protect your children, like, if there's a burglar coming in your house and they want to know where the children are, and you say, no, my children, they're at my grandma's, and they're hiding in the closet, I think that's a necessary lie. I'm okay with that. I can generally say, oh, I can go with that lie. But when you just tell a lie because it's Tuesday or because it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I feel like that's just right. And if you're a whole adult and you're doing that, and so they're not only lying just to be lying, and then they're a whole adult, and not only are they a whole adult, they're a fiduciary adult with the responsibility of giving out what? Accurate information. And then you have how serious this matter is and how many lives are being impacted, and you think all of this is funny, and you're sitting up there, you having a sarcastic fest, you think you got cool wit, and you sitting on TV. I think you can tell how I feel about all that. Yeah. Okay. So I am always here for you. I shall always be here for you. It is my greatest pleasure to always be here for you. And as long as there's breath in my lungs and a will in my heart, and I don't think it will ever go away, because y'all get on my nerves. Lord knows y'all people, y'all can work a nerve. But I am committed to the rigor of the fiduciary duty of serving you all well, and I take it a great honor to do so. So if you have any questions for me, please do get at me. You can DM me on Twitter, Facebook. Don't send me anything inappropriate, because I'm not that chick. I'm not that chick. I'm very youthful. I'm very down to earth. But I think y'all all know I'll get you together real quick. I'll snatch you back. We get snatch you back to reality. Snatch you back in love, right? So, or you can DM me on Instagram. Tomorrow I'll be going live on Twitter, 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. at Tigress Run. And that's it. 7:58. Have a good one. Bye.